What happens when the God of Mischief comes up against the Lord of Lies? Will the greatest story ever written be told, or is the devil truly in the details? Well, let's hop into the pages of Bring On the Bad Guys Loki issue number 1 and find out what happens next together, shall we? So then, this issue wastes absolutely no time getting started as we see Old Man Loki at the end of another Ragnarok cycle. He's lashed to a stone with a serpent dripping poison in his eyes, as is usually his ultimate fate in Norse mythology. The only thing that ends up saving Loki from this torture is none other than Mephisto. He bamps Thor's evil brother over to his domain in the deep dark depths, hoping to strike a deal with him. But hey, this is Loki we're dealing with here, right? He's the original trickster. He's not going to fall for some demon of the Abrahamic faiths trying to get him to sign on the dotted line, right? But hey, what's the harm in listening, right? In exchange from being rescued from torture and being kept safe from Thor, all Mephisto wants in return is for Loki to go to Earth and claim the life of a young man who just so happens to be a descendant of Khonshu, and by extension a descendant of that Khonshu mage, who assisted Mephisto in trying to create the mysterious soul forge that kind of kicked off this whole Bring On the Bad Guys event. So basically it's a soul for a soul. If Loki can stab this guy with the knife and bring it back, then they're all going to be square. Loki knows damn well whenever you're dealing with Mephisto, too good to be true means exactly that, but at the same time, this mission did pique his interest, and as such, he decides to take the trip to 1800s Paris to either off this guy and seal his fate, or try and understand why exactly this mystery man is so important to Mephisto. Turns out this descendant of Khonshu isn't actually a fighter or a magic user at all. He's an artist, and when Loki finds him, he's on the street corner showcasing his newest song. And it's right around here this special one-shot issue went from being pretty interesting to being pretty damn good in only the span of a couple stanzas. You see, the young artist's song goes a little something like this. Along the shore the cloud waves break, the twin suns sink beneath the lake, the shadows lengthen in Carcosa. Now, if you're a massive literary nerd like me and read more than just comics, then you're probably already flipping your shit because you know that this song just so happens to be Casilda's ballad from the pages of The King in Yellow. But what exactly is The King in Yellow, you might be wondering? Well, it's a collection of short stories by author Robert W. Chambers, which ended up being massively influential as a work of mind-bending horror, so much to the point that it would actually end up inspiring none other than H.P. Lovecraft to go on and create the Cthulhu mythos. And hey, if you were a fan of True Detective, then you probably knew all that already. Now, like I said before, this descendant of Khonshu never actually gets a full name, but I can only assume this is Chambers himself. Loki is so taken with this guy's song and the absolute depths of his creativity that he's never seen before. The God of Mischief literally moves heaven and earth to give this guy his own opera house, so that he may finally bring his true vision to fruition. Did I also mention this guy suffers horrifying, debilitating nightmares? Implying his connection to the more magical other world, again probably related to the fact that he is a descendant of Khonshu, even if he didn't end up using the powers in Moon Knight-y ways. The whole thing gets even better and takes on a whole other amazing dimension when you start to realize too, wait, if this is Chambers and if he is writing the Yellow King, which is basically the story of his life at this moment, then that means Loki is himself actually the Yellow King, which makes a ton of sense. Or to put it another way, it is a terrible thing to fall into the hands of a living god. Chambers will play the lead in the upcoming production of the Yellow King, and Loki even goes out of his way to get a brand new star from Sweden to play the king himself. The two end up becoming fast friends. So much to the point that Chambers actually feels comfortable enough to open up about his life and his experience and his family and what brought him to this place in time, you know, all the stuff that he would normally keep bottled up or put into his work. And because of that, Loki, who goes on the ultimate producer power trip, ends up getting furious and revealing his true form to Chambers, telling him that he didn't strike this deal with him only for him to screw around and fritter away his talents. Loki wants nothing more than to see this story told, and he will stop at nothing to see it happen, no matter who has to bend, break, or die. Now, at this point, you also might be wondering to yourself, geez, how does Mephisto feel about this? He gave Loki a simple mission, and Loki ended up completely hijacking it for himself. Well, Sister Sorrow, Mephisto's right-hand woman, decides to come to Earth and make her anger known. She ends up dispatching of the leading man the very night of the show, though in fairness, she does actually offer up an interesting bit of characterization, saying that she knows full well what it's like to give yourself to someone fully only to be hurt, no doubt talking about her own experiences selling her soul to Mephisto to save the life of her father, who ended up dying anyway. Now, even though the star is dead, the show must go on. Loki decides that he will take the role of the Yellow King for himself, but first he must actually deal with Sister Sorrow up in the rafters. The God of Mischief says that he never once feared Mephisto, that he's been striking devil's deals and squashing demons long before that carpenter ever first started his work. Ho-ho! Loki and Sorrow fight for a bit before eventually the show reaches its grand climax as Loki takes the stage in a brand new opera-inspired set of armor, before eventually deciding to steal the show completely for himself by stabbing Chambers on stage. The big twist being, though, that Chambers is not actually scared of death at all. The crowd loves his work, and he knows in doing so his artist spirit will live forever now via the King in Yellow. Hell, it seems that Loki knew this too, and this was all tantamount in his plan to get one over on Mephisto. You see, technically speaking, Loki actually did honor every bit of his contract with Mephisto. He took the dagger, he went to Earth, he stabbed the guy and captured his spirit. He just didn't capture it in the knife. For there is only one way to capture the soul of the artist, the soul of the storyteller, and that is to bring their story to the world, which is exactly what Loki did. In fact, as we flash forward to what appears to be modern day, we see good Loki walking through the streets as more fans gather outside to see a brand new production of The King in Yellow that's already sold out. And so that was Bring On the Bad Guys Loki issue number 1, everybody, and if you couldn't tell, I was really pleasantly surprised by this one. In fact, I was genuinely blown away by what an incredibly creative and rewarding little meditation on art, artists, and the power of their stories all wrapped up in one neat little package. In fact, I dare say this is probably the perfect material for Loki to cover, and I really wish that all the other Bring On the Bad Guys stories were able to come even close to what this one managed to do in just a couple pages. Hell, I think I like this issue more because I know full well that the bulk of what's actually going on in this story is going to go completely over the heads of some readers. In fact, I'm sure it already has. But again, like I said, if you are a literature nerd, if you are an old-timey horror nerd, then a story like this was pretty much made 100% entirely for people like you and me. Overall, I would give this one a very positive 8.5 out of 10. This might actually be my favorite one-shot I've read this year. Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel again, thanking you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, why not check out my Amazon link down in the description. Yes, that's right, the Cape Joel channel officially has its own Amazon storefront now. You can pick up a comic or anything else for that matter, and if you did, you'd really be helping me in the channel. So with that out of the way everyone, I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.